cause iron deficiency, anemia. 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 Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Wednesday in the Riv, and we have a after lunch special show today because they moved an appointment on me at the last minute to 10 o'clock in the morning. So we had to. So we apologize.
You wish you never kept.
So now we're gonna ruin their lunch instead of their breakfast.
Sounds good.
But I don't even know where to begin with all the things that are happening.
Well, yesterday was a committee on ordinance and legislation. It was rather interesting. I've never heard so much bullshit spewed in my life. And it all was coming from corporate counsel and Seth Atkins. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Okay? Do you remember we talked about the trolley fares and how I thought they were a little too high?
Yeah.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one because Andrew Raposa thought they were too high. $1,100 for a full day. And Andrew said, well, what if a school wants to rent it? It only costs us $300 from the bus company. But what if we wanted to use the trolley? $1,100? Don't you think the school should get a discount? Can we create a fare for seniors? Seth Atkins says, well, all we do is take $1 off, but then we might as well create one for military people and for people on assistance. It was unbelievable. Excuse after excuse after excuse.
Listen.
Anything to rob the people. Anything.
Yeah, and now there's talk about the grass cutting height again.
Yeah.
Paul Coogan can't stop spending money. And the council, it's about time they're starting to realize that they got to stop spending money. And Michelle Dion put it very, very clearly. When she spends too much money, she's got to give up things because she can't afford to pay for other things. But not Paul. Paul hasn't said, well, you know, those people that I had on opera money and never figured out a funding source for them have to go. The 4 supervisors that I created to take the place of 1 supervisor don't have to go. The 6 assistant superintendent of schools don't have to go. Bridgette's financial analyst, her consultant, and her entire department, we have to make cuts because she got a pay raise. But she was on a radio with Linda saying it's impossible to put the debt override on the bills. And that's a lie. It may be impossible for her, but it's not impossible.
Interesting. Remember the CPA? That appears on our bill. They had no problem putting the CPA on our bill, did they?
No,
not anymore.
But look, they lie, and we got 2 people from out of town that don't have to suffer any of these increases to anything because they don't live here. Akins and Bridgette doesn't even live in a state.
That's right.
But they love to figure out how they can take the people in Fall River. Number one, the people in the country are dying. I mean, 66% of the country, 2/3 of the country are having problems surviving with all this inflation. And Fall River has one of the lowest economies in this state and in the country. I mean, yeah, we might get beat by Appalachia or Appalachia, however you want to pronounce it. I think they call it Appalachia where they're from. But this is absurd. These people never stop spending. I mean, I saw a medical call. You had an ambulance, a pickup truck, a Dodge Charger. They had 5 vehicles at a medical run. We paid for all that. I remember when we ran medical service when an ambulance went to a call with 2 people on it. That's all you need. Paul Coogan said, oh, we're going to put him in the fire department, and then they put him in Group 4 to put a burden on the retirement system because they can retire earlier. Then they gave him all massive pay raises, and then he took them completely out of the fire department, painted their ambulances a different color, got all kinds of vehicles. Everybody's got a truck, a pickup truck, or a car. I mean, there's just no end to this spending. He got the guy that was doing oil changes and gave him a supervisor's job. Every reorganization he's done is created in bigger salaries and more people supervising less people. This guy is a madman. I've never seen anything like it in all the time in a city, and I've seen a lot of mayors. This guy is just out of control, absolutely out of control, and the city council better start clamping down because they're all going to be gone. And this city will be in receivership. This is nuts, absolutely nuts. You can't put it on the bill. I talked to 2 certified public accountants. They laughed when I said that. They laughed. I'll bet you if I ask Mary Sahadi if you can put it on a bill, she'd say, yeah, you can. But it'll be hard. Bridgette might have to work hard. And we don't want to work hard, do we? It's too hard. But give me another pay raise. What did she get? 9%? I don't know what the hell she got. $6,000. I don't know. Another pay raise with all her assistants. But it's too hard to do your job. Well, the city council better start telling them you're getting paid to tell the people how their money's being spent. We are the fiduciaries of the people. And when the people say, we want to know how much and where our tax money is being spent, you either figure it out or you look for a new job. Because you're not going to tell me you can't figure out how much we're paying. Because you got to figure out how you get to that number. I think they're afraid to do that, CJ. You know why? I think they just say, well, we need $5 million and we're just going to split it evenly amongst everybody. So all the rich people pay the same thing as the poor people. You're not paying your equal share of this debt. Nelson brought up some of these obscene tax evaluations for these rich places. 98% depreciation on because they're doing that on the old Notre Dame school. 48 units. The goddamn the marble countertops and the stainless steel appliances in those 48 units cost as much as your house and my house.
That's right.
But
And
but
they're only getting taxed on $77,000.
yeah, this is nuts. We need the FBI to come down here and start investigating again.
That's because it's a friend of the mayor.
That's right. This is crazy. This is crazy. These people don't stop, and the city council better start stepping up, because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to start filing ethics complaints and complaints against them for malfeasance, because they are fiduciaries. And I've sent them more than once the legal precedents from the Cornell Law School. But then again, what the hell does the Cornell Law School know?
Yeah, they don't know much.
They don't know much. They cited the case, and I got the case over there. You have to cast a critical eye. You have to look beyond the numbers that you're presented as a fiduciary. But none of them know what a fiduciary is. They say they're fiduciaries, but they don't know what a fiduciary is. Bridgette's supposed to be a fiduciary, but she can't read. She can't read CMR 840 that says when you are on a retirement board, your sole, you are a fiduciary solely for the retirees and their beneficiaries, not the city of Fall River. Her and the other appointee, Nassif, came over and they were worried about the city budget. Well, Bridgette, you were supposed to worry about the city budget when you were doing a city budget. You overspent. So now you're going to rob from everybody else. And you went to the retirement board and you robbed money from the retirement system to subsidize the budget that you underfunded. That's not being a fiduciary. Because you were told by law. You know what CMR stands for? I know you're from Rhode Island, but I'll tell you what it stands for. Commonwealth of Massachusetts Regulation. That's what it stands for. And it says you shouldn't have been worried about the city budget. And if they're in the minutes of the November 29th meeting, you can all get them. It's public record. Go get the public record of the open meeting section of the November 29th meeting and see what her and Nassif were saying. Oh, you got to take the city. You got to think about. No, I don't have to think about the damn city. I got to follow my fiduciary responsibility for the retirement board and be responsible to the retirees and their beneficiaries. You screw up the city budget, that's on you, Bridgette. You underfund stuff, and you said it at that meeting. You can't afford Durfee, you can't afford Diamond, you can't afford the contracts. Well, as a fiduciary to the city of Fall River, as its CFO, you should have thought of that when you push that through the city council. And now it's up to the council to start paying attention. And if you think this is firing me up, it is. Because now they're going to fine you for your grass being too high. You're going to purple bags to pick up. For what? For what? You're like Joe Biden. He wouldn't fire the director of the Secret Service. And when they finally did get her to resign, after everybody finally said, resign, you got to resign, you're a disaster. She resigned. He wrote her a letter saying, thanks for the great job you did. Yeah, you almost got a damn president, a former president, and a leading candidate for president assassinated. They never fire anybody in the Biden administration. 13 of our military dead in Afghanistan. Austin go? Milley go? No, nobody goes. They all get pay raises, like Coogan in Fall River. Coogan's mini Biden. He puts all these people on there, gives them all giant pay raises, And then he's going to keep it. We can't borrow till 33. So you just got to we got to figure out how much more money we can get for you every way, shape, or form. Debt override, cutting your grass. How about people who are elderly and have to hire somebody to cut their grass? That guy doesn't get around to the grass. The guy gets sick. He's a week late. They're going to get a fine? Are you shitting me? This guy's a thief. And the thing is, when he's not mayor anymore, he won't be paying any of this stuff. Because he's going to be gone. Like he did when he first retired. He got the hell out of Fall River. He only came back to be a politician, to run for school committee, then run for mayor. And when he's no longer a politician, the puppet politician that he is, he's going to run out of town again and laugh at the damage he did. And with that rant, CJ, back to you.
It's interesting because, as Jeff said, Bridgette was bringing up a lot of this information on WSAR on Tuesday with Linda, and you can't beat it because they're talking about trash fees. They're talking about fining you for not cutting your lawn on time. They're going to go back to fining you if you put your trash out too early. This is the problem. The ATM machine needs to shut down. They're just using you as an ATM machine. And as long as you allow them to keep picking your pockets, it's going to keep happening. The fact that they still refuse to put the debt exclusion on the tax bill says they have something to hide. I want to know what they're hiding. I want to know where that money's going. They're not telling us. What's the big secret? And remember, Bridgette said that we can't bond until 2033. She said that in the retirement board. But in front of the city council last week, she turned around and said it's impossible for the city not to bond because you guys keep approving them. You approve these projects for the school department and they have to be bonded. So I'm required to bond them because you said yes. And that's what happens. The city council does not exercise its fiduciary responsibility. It does not exercise any financial management. Bridgette doesn't exercise any fiduciary responsibility, any financial management. Paul never exercised any financial management. Hell, he hasn't met a guy he can't hire except for you and I, because we can't be paid off.
Oh, that's funny, CJ. But you know what they never talk about? Like you said, it's the blame game. It's the old political game. Oh, it's his fault. No, it isn't. It's his fault. No, it's his fault. No, it's his fault. No, it's all your faults. Bridgette brought contracts up that she knew wasn't funded. We're looking at investments down the road. That's not a definitive funding source. And even when Laura Sampson brought it up, she's like, well, we're not going to use that money. Well, what are you going to use it for? Why are you making investments? Well, to do this. But you never heard him say, even though on November 29th, I'm going to keep reminding you that meeting, in the minutes of the meeting, she said categorically that they were going to look for concessions. What concessions have they made? They gave her a pay raise. They didn't say, well, you can't get a pay raise. We're having a pay raise freeze. We're having a hiring freeze on everything except absolutely essential positions. We're going to ask for concessions. No. They can't pay for the contracts they negotiated before, and they've renegotiated contracts with every single bargaining unit since then, gave them another contract with pay raises in them. Not that I'm against pay raises. But you can only give a pay raise when you can pay for the pay raise. And we can't. Has Coogan laid off one person? Did he say all the people are going to be gone? All the people are going to be gone that I hired with opera money? Because we got no more opera money. That's right. It's a pay, but it's not only on taxpayer. Now we're not going to have it back. We're not going to have anything. I mean, like I said, all they did was figure out how to take more money from people. And I'll remind them again. We have a median per capita income in this city of 30,000. I think it's 30,561, but I might be wrong on the last couple of numbers but I know it's 30,000. And our median household income's 52 and change. You know, our household average is lower than the median per capita average, individual income in the state. We have nearly 20% of the people in the state making $200,000 a year. That's why they don't care about us. They don't care about you. They lie and lie and lie again. We're gonna ask for concessions. Is a pay raise a concession? I don't know. Maybe in Rhode Island, you consider pay raises a concession. And I'm speaking from experience. Because I negotiated for this city for nearly 25 years, a lot of contracts. And there was more than one contractor where we took zero for a year or a year and a half. Why? Because the city didn't have the money. We didn't say, well, give me the money anyway. The city didn't tell us we're going to give you the money anyway. The mayor at the time said, listen, we can't afford it. We can't afford it right now. And we checked the books and they were right. We went to the JLMC twice and got contracts when they said they couldn't afford it. We proved they did. But believe me, I knew when they could afford it and when they couldn't afford it. When they couldn't afford it, every union in the city basically took a zero. Now it's like Paul Coogan doesn't care. We can't afford it, give it to him anyway. The unions turn around and say, we don't care if the city can't afford it. Let them worry about it. We'll take the money. Well, if that's what you do, you suffer the consequences of getting reductions. When I was the president of the Firefighters Union, city came forward and said, I think that was one of the things Joe Camara was talking about, maybe he mixed it up, but he said, if you force us, you're going to take a pay raise, you're going to take a pay cut. If you don't take a pay cut, we're going to lay off people. We had a union meeting. I didn't decide that. The bargaining committee didn't decide it. We went back to the membership and we said, the city's come to the table and said, if you don't take a zero, if you don't take a pay cut fundamentally, they're going to lay people off. And they said, nope. We want the negotiated settlement. And we had members who were going to be laid off stand up at the union hall and said, you know something? When we come back to this job, we want to get a livable wage. We're not going to let the city threaten us with layoffs not to take a pay raise. And I said, well, the body voted and they voted not to take the layoffs, and in that particular case, we knew they were playing they were bluffing. They never laid off anybody. They found the money because it was there at that particular.
They always do.
But there have been times where people took zeros, but no, Coogan doesn't care. He keeps hiring more people, giving them all pay raises, big pay raises. And turns around in a city. That's why he hides. Nobody ever sees him. He's like Biden. You never see him talking to regular people in Fall River. He'll tell you, I don't care if you're living on $18,000 a year. Shut up and pay more. And if you can't pay, lose your house. I don't care. My friends are making money. And he's going to spend money until the city council stops him. Or we go into receivership, whichever comes first. And that's the problem. And with that, CJ, back to you.
It's definitely very interesting. I mean, we can't make up this stuff. And I mean, if you remember with Bob Correa, how he asked every department for concessions, 9% pay cuts. And the only department that didn't say yes to it was the fire department. They stood their ground. For some reason, it seems that the fire department always stands its ground. I don't know about now. We'll have to see. But it's very interesting because we can't afford the contracts, yet the fire department and the police department got two of the highest pay raises in the city outside of EMS. So police, fire, and EMS all got the highest pay raises. Not that I want to deny them. I think they're worth more than what they're getting. But we cannot afford it. There's a big difference. The city's position with EMS is that they pay their own bills. They're an enterprise account. They got to pay their own salaries. They got to pay for their own benefits. They got to pay for their own retirement. They got to pay for their own equipment. And I agree. But I will say this. They also hoard a bunch of money away every year because they're an enterprise account. And that money goes to wherever EMS wants it to go. New equipment, new ambulances, extra vehicles, more pickup trucks, whatever the case may be. Now, Cliff Ponte at one point brought up, what if we rolled EMS into the city budget? And what was EMS's response? We already contribute 1/3 of our income to the city budget. 1/3. No, you know why they want to keep it as an enterprise account? They want to keep their ranks. They want to keep it separate from the fire department. They don't want to be answerable to anyone but themselves. My opinion, do away with the enterprise account. Do away with the ranks. And immediately stop hiring EMS professionals that are not firefighters. Unless they're a firefighter, they're not hired. Those that are currently on the department that aren't firefighters can stay in the department, but all the new hires have to be firefighters. That will result in attrition where eventually EMS will be under the fire department. It's worked for over 20 years in Providence. It's worked for over 50 years in Los Angeles. It's worked for over 40 years in Chicago. It's working everywhere else. But not in Fall River. We can't have that.
But remember, CJ, something extremely important. They promised,
I remember
when they got all this stuff, that they were going to make it fire-based EMS.
I remember.
And they had no intention. Another giant lie that Coogan told. And they said, we're going to go fire-based EMS, and they never did. Because he doesn't care. Listen, these people, they just never stop. They'll never stop spending until you force them to stop spending. They do not care about the regular people in Fall River. Never did, never will. And remember something. These people Yeah. So many people are paying through the nose, and you're right. But it's not the rich people. Therein lies the rub. The people with the most money, the people who are getting tips, the people who are getting ties, the people who are getting H-dips, the people who are getting zoning variances, the people who are getting their property depreciated to be saying it's worth virtually nothing, are the richest people in the community. Some of them aren't even from this community. They're outside developers, but they're getting breaks. That's why I keep saying the FBI should be coming down here and investigating. Because I'm going to tell you something. I think there's a lot of collusion here, and there's a lot of RICO violations going on here. Because we remember what happened. We remember what happened with Kathy Ann's pay. You know, we remember about her property tax being so low. Oh, whoops. And they found 2 other people too. Whoops. It's happening now. Nelson's got his finger on something here. Nelson's got his finger on something. There's got to be an investigation about this stuff. And I'll tell you, this is crazy. You can't bleed a stone. People cannot afford this in this city. These people, you know, Coogan walks around. Yeah, he's got a nice fat pension. He can live on his pension and bank his whole mayoral salary, probably get it invested by his investor friends. He's going to be a millionaire. He's going to be a millionaire when he leaves this office. A guy that couldn't make principal. A guy that they wouldn't let run a school is running a city into the ground and in a process becoming a millionaire. Remember, he's making 120 grand. Let's just round it off to 125. That makes 250,000 a term, 3 terms. That's $750,000. Some of your investor friends, they'll roll that baby over. You'll be worth a couple of million when you leave here. Do you give a damn? No. You don't give a damn. You're not worried about getting fined because you're not going to get fined. You think anybody that's connected is going to get fined for their grass? You think anybody that's connected is going to ever get anything done to them? Whoops! Like the mayor of Taunton. Domestic battery, assault and battery. Law requires that they've got to be arraigned and put in a cooler until there's a restraining order put out. Not with her.
And the law requires 6 hours of detention.
That's right. Nothing. Walk right out, baby. Walk right out.
Walk right in. Step right out.
Yeah, but see, this is the thing. Look at these people. They don't care about the regular people of this city, and they'll keep draining you, and they don't care if you lose everything. Paul Coogan doesn't care. Coogan only cares about what he said at the beginning of his tenure as mayor. My banker friends, my lawyer friends, my developer friends, my rich entitled friends, I'm going to become one of them. I'm going to be rich like them. I didn't make principal, but I became a millionaire on your backs. Thank you very much. With that, CJ, back to you.
It's always something interesting. Always something interesting. That's for sure. And you know, there's nothing wrong with making a buck. There's nothing wrong with making a buck. Not at all. I would love to be making $1 million. Especially if it was on the back of somebody else. But when that somebody else doesn't have the money, you're not making money on their backs. You're robbing their pockets. You're stealing from them. You're stealing their future. And that's what's going to stop. You've got to have a little common courtesy. some decency, something that you don't have with this administration. This dictator doesn't have any decency at all. He's a dictator. Why should he have any decency? Dictators don't usually have decency. And we are the people who he is supposed to represent. He's not supposed to be representing the developers, the bankers, the insurance guys. He's supposed to be.
Remember what he ran on, Jeff? He said, I'm going to obey the law.
That's right.
And I'm going to be transparent. You can't, he's never been transparent about anything in the city of Fall River. Nothing. He's not abided by virtually any law, and I articulated that at the council meeting. I read a list of what he did. Let me see. I might even be here. I still got it here on the desk. When Paul Coogan took over, we had 78 private companies having their trash collected in violation of ordinance. So that's a violation of the law. Did he stop it? No. In his first 4 years, that number has risen to nearly 300. Who pays? The taxpayer. He didn't stop a violation of the law. He made it worse. Then he gave his staff a pay raise in spite of the fact that the city council did not approve those pay raises, which is illegal. And every subsequent pay raise is increased on an illegal base. Again, who pays? The taxpayer. He's paid salaries in excess of ordinance and without ordinances. Who pays? They violate the law. He violates the law routinely, and the city councilors allows them to do that, even though they are sworn to uphold the laws and the city ordinances of Fall River. They have their oath. That's right. Paul Coogan is at what CJ called him at the meeting. He is a dictator. And we have a city that is being run by a dictatorial, authoritarian government. They don't care about the law. They all swore that oath. I read the oath. I had the oath there. They swore an oath to uphold the Constitution and to obey the laws of the United States, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and the city ordinances of Fall River. But they haven't. They've ignored them routinely. I mean, they're so blatant, they don't care. I mean, you got Aikens going up there saying, well, I know their salaries aren't in ordinance, but they won't get a paycheck. Well, whose fault is that? It's not my fault. It's not your fault. None of you guys that are watching, it's not your fault. They created those jobs then didn't find a revenue stream and put them in ordinance like they're supposed to by law. Those people should not be on a payroll, period. You're not getting a paycheck? Don't blame me. Blame your mayor. He gave you a job that he knew he couldn't pay for. And now you want...
Chip, we lost you. There you go. Huh?
Yeah.
We've lost you again, Chip.
You lost me?
Now we got you back.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is nuts. Yeah, they routinely, they've put, I think the estimate was like 400 people. And that's an estimate. I'm not exactly sure, but maybe if we get a new mayor, we'll find out when we start chucking some of these people out. He's put about 400 new jobs in. Oh, well over 100 with the opera money. We know that 60 something on one side of the city and 40 something in the other. That's over 100. But with all these reorganizations and stuff, there's estimates that between 300 and 400 positions, and we're paying for their salaries, their health care, all the benefits for what? The city was running fine before he reorganized. There were just vehicles to get us. He never had a reorganization that made the city, saved the city money, made the government more efficient. They all cost more. Like I said, it's just, this is crazy town. This city is now under him. It's because he's brought the school department over there where they just give out pay raises. Nobody gives a damn. Nobody pays attention to us. This is like North Korea. Nobody knows what's going on over here. Just give everybody the pay raises, create all these jobs, assistants to the assistants to the assistants. But there's one difference. Not that it's right, but at least they get a little help with funding those jobs because the state gives them money. When Paul Coogan came over here and brought that attitude to the city side, we're not getting education money to subsidize the city side. It's us, the citizens, the people of Fall River, the people who now they want to bring back every conceivable way to take your money. Never saw him in front of a microphone saying, we're cutting staff, cutting all the consultants. We're cutting all the assistants to the assistants to the assistants. You gave Bridgette a pay raise? Well, geez, you think she might be able to do her job without having a financial analyst to help her? She's got a whole bunch of subordinates in her office.
According to Safe Akins, they have a skeleton crew there. And he said, look exactly at the CFO's office. They have a skeleton crew. They don't have enough people working in that department.
Well, they got a skeleton crew because nobody wants to work there anymore. They don't have a skeleton crew in the city. We know that we know that you got a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of supervisors running around in these reorganizations that are getting paid for supervising less people than the old supervisor did, because now they got 3 other supervisors with them and they're making a lot of money. We know that the voting office has 7 people in it now. And we said, that's not a skeleton crew. It's not a skeleton crew because the former head of the former director said she had 1 full-time and 1 part-time help. That's what she had. So there were 2 full-timers and 1 part-timer in there. And our elections were a lot bigger when she was the director of elections. Now we got 7 people. I think they paid more for office furniture than most of their salaries.
Yeah.
Because Ryan likes to spend money. And this is what Coogan does. I mean, they got a skeleton crew. I'll tell you why they got a skeleton crew. People don't want to work here. People don't want to work here over there because they're under all kinds of stress because they're always running around trying to yell and scream about, well, help me do this, help me do that, because they can't do their own jobs. I remember the person they hired for, I believe it was the auditing position. They stuck her on a retirement board. Nice girl. Conscientious. Came over from Bridgewater, I think. And I remember her after 2 months saying, I got to get out of here. She said, this place is a nut house over there. It's a nut house. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody can do their job. And they're trying to dump it on all the new people. And I'm getting out of here. And she did. She got out. I mean, there's rumors that the CFO can't even use the Munis system. That she needs help using it. She's been here for how many years? She can't use the system? If that's true, maybe we should have a congressional hearing like they did for the head of the Secret Service and say, if you can't do it, you got to resign. I mean, this is, like I said, this is crazy town. Yeah, $500 million. Well, he's already tanked it. Look, what they're doing now is they're playing Chinese checkers with the money. They're robbing Peter to pay Paul. They're looking for more funding sources because they don't have money. That's why they want to get all this money, all these new fees and taxes. They're trying to subsidize what they already got. This isn't about future spending. They can't help. And she said it in November. She said it in November. They can't handle it. They're broke. All this is a little finger, like the little Dutch boy sticking his finger in the dikes. After, eventually the dike is going to break. And what's going to happen is we're going to go into receivership. This city is going to break. It's going to break. Because when a new mayor gets in, and I'll tell you what, in the next election, I don't care. If anybody that's affiliated with that cabal that's running this city is running, I am going to be working my butt off to get whoever the candidates are that are running for these political offices. I'm going to be working to get them elected, and we're going to educate the people. Because that mayor, I will not vote for a mayor that does not immediately. The first order of business will be to say the first thing I'm going to do is run a forensic audit of the city of Fall River, so I can know where we stand fiscally, and every citizen in Fall River can know exactly the financial position this city is in to the penny. And I don't care if Bridgette is on the radio saying it's impossible but to put the numbers in, because it is. Yeah, I hope so too. And I can tell you, I can guarantee you that when we hired Ernst & Young, and the guy who did our audit was named Jerry McGovern, he had just got through with $1 trillion audit of the state of Kentucky. There are experts in this field who will identify any penny. It might put a few people in jail. That's why they're all afraid of that word, forensic, because forensic means they're looking at not only where the money is spent, but if it's being spent within the law. Remember, the last Durfee they built, a few people went to jail. I think a few people could have went to jail at this Durfee if somebody looked at it a little closer. More than a few people could have went to jail. And that's the problem. We need to elect a mayor who says, listen, I'm for the taxpayer. I'm for the people. I'm ready to go. And I'm going to do a forensic audit. We're all going to know where we stand, and we're all going to have to deal with whatever we got. We're all going to bite the bullet together. But this is the end of the rich elitists running this city, getting all the money and not getting their fair share at all. Because I saw some of the things Nelson's got. You think some of the stuff he presented at the council is big. Wait till you see some of the stuff he's got about some of the biggest names in the city of Fall River and the property they own and what's happened to their property assessments recently. It will be staggering. And with that, CJ, I'll turn it back to you.
Nothing surprises me, that's for sure. Hey, we didn't get to this on our last show, but we talk about it a lot, but we're going to show it this time. There, as you can see in the top pictures, you can see the mold forming in the schools. Okay? And from what I've been told, these lower pictures are showing mold growing on the outside of the building. This is what your kids are experiencing. This is what
the teachers and the custodians. Yeah. And you know what you do now? When you're Paul Coogan, give that man a pay raise.
That's right.
For doing nothing and admitting it. Because you know why? Paul said, well, he manned up. He admitted he didn't do anything. Well, guess what? The director of the Secret Service womaned up, and she went in front of the Congress, didn't answer a question with a straight answer, and finally she had to resign. Paul Coogan, that's the way he runs the city. Screw up, get a pay raise. Keep your mouth shut. And how many lawsuits are we going to get? Everybody that's got any kind of health issue from that problem should sue the city of Fall River, get those pictures, and then get a video of Ken Pacheco saying they knew the problem and they didn't do anything to solve it immediately. And it got out of hand. So what does this leader of this city do? Nothing. Give him a pay raise. Just like Malone. abused people, violated federal law, statute, cover it up, let him stay on a job for a while, and just let him make an exit. This guy.
You're muted, Chip. There you go. You're muted,
This
Chip.
guy is the biggest. He is he's a criminal enterprise. That's what he is.
Well, it's interesting you should talk about abuses because there's a department head which has had complaints filed against him for abuse. And guess what's happened? I'll give you 3 guesses. Guess what's happened?
They covered it up.
Nothing. Nothing at all. Keep your head down, keep your mouth shut, and it'll all go away. And I've spoken to city councilors about it. I've spoken ad infinitum about it. And guess what? There's nothing they can do.
Oh, yes, there is. There is something they could do, but they won't do it. I mean, look, it's not because they'll say, well, executive branch and blah, blah, blah.
Right, exactly.
No. Listen, that's horseshit. You can file a complaint with the state. You're a legislator. You hold an elected position in this city. You have standing in this city because abuses like that end up with potential lawsuits, which cost the city money, and spending money is their job. They can do it if they want to stand up and go and make some noise. But you and I sat in that council chamber and we heard the plan, the Terry Sullivan plan. Shut up, keep your mouth shut, keep your head down. They'll go on to something in the next news cycle. And so they are accessories before, during, and after the fact. If they're allowing someone to abuse somebody, it's just another disaster. The school department's the worst one. But I got to give my friend Dan Robillard some credit. He said one of the funniest things I've ever heard. And CJ said he actually said it to somebody else. So I guess you and Danny, great political minds, think alike, CJ.
I guess so.
But we were having a conversation about that council meeting when these 3 people tried to say that it was okay to put it back in the hands of the people. Because even though we know that any debt override is a marketing campaign, because we went up against one heavily financed by all the rich people and nobody understands it. And Sean Kadim was right. But then he said, after watching that meeting, he said, it showed me the best argument you can ever use for term limits.
That's right.
And I said, really? I said, what was that, Danny? He said, the best argument you can use for term limits is Linda Pereira, Brad Kilby, and Paul Harr.
No question about it. No question at all about it. That's for sure.
That was, there you go.
Great observation, Danny. I had the exact same one, and I said it to another city councilor. So we're on the same ball field at least. Well, I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Friday morning at our regular time. Have a great day.